Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Okay everybody, today I have an October TBR for you. I have some vampire books, I have some fantasy books, I have some romance books. I've got a lot on here. And I also have a lot of arcs because I did that thing that I do that I really don't like when I do, when I kind of feel like a little bit of FOMO, missing out when I see all of these new awesome arcs coming out, and I want to be a part of that too, and so then I go request them, and then they all end up due in the same month. But it's okay, because we're going to read them and we're going to have a great time. So let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, we're going to talk about the book clubs that I'm hosting that we're going to be reading with. So the first one is my Patreon book club. This is a book club that I host on Patreon where we all pick a book, everybody votes on it, and then I do an exclusive reading vlog for the book, and then we do a live show for it as well, and it's so much fun. This is for the So Delicious tier. It's my favorite part of Patreon, and I'm so grateful for everybody who is over there hanging out with me and having a good time. So this month the theme is paranormal romance. And it looks like, at this point, the book that is winning is Wolf Gone Wild. So I'm going to leave the poll up for just a few more hours to see what happens, but it looks like that's going to be the book that is winning. So Wolf Gone Wild by Juliet Cross is our Patreon book club book that we're going to be reading together for the month of October, and I'm very excited about that because there are a lot of people in there that haven't read this book yet. It's one of my personal favorites, but I haven't reread it in a long time, so that'll be a good one. If you want to join my Patreon, feel free to check out the link below. It's a really fun place, and yeah, I do extra content, reading sprints, chats. It's a fun time. Okay, so now the other book club that I have that I am hosting is my Fable book club, which is most ardently a historical romance book club. So that book club poll is also not done yet, but it looks like the book that is going to be winning, that seems to be a good bit ahead of the others, is To Beguile a Beast by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is another reread for me. I love this book so much. I have kind of purposely put books that I want to reread in Fable, books that I consider to be like the best of the best historical romances. So that one will be a fun one. You can join my Fable down below. It's a free book club, no cost at all. It's a text-based thing where you can go in and put your thoughts, read at your own pace. It's very fun. So check that out if you want to read historical romance with me and a bunch of other people as well. Okay, so now let's move on to the arcs that I have that are coming due that I gotta get cracking on. Some of these I'm already currently in the middle of, and I'm gonna do my absolute best to make sure I get all of these done on time, and if not, I will read it as soon as possible. Okay, so the first book is Heir by Sabaa Tahir. The Ember in the Ashes series is one of my favorite YA series. I think it's fantastic. I love it so much. And this is set in that same world in the future. I believe it's like 30 years in the future, something like that. I am currently reading this. I am very gripped, so this is coming out October 1st, so that is definitely gotta happen. Another book that comes out on October 1st that I am also starting, which is very good, is The House at Watch Hill by Karen Marie Moning, or Moning. I don't know how you say her name. Karen Marie Moning is an author that I dearly love. I read her Fae Fever or Dark Fever series years and years and years ago. It's urban fantasy. I loved it so much. I was obsessed with it. I haven't read her in a very long time, and I haven't read anything other than that series, like the original, I believe, 5 books. So this one I'm very excited about. I am only a few pages into it just to kind of get a feel for what it was like. It's basically about a young woman whose mother has passed away. She inherits this gothic mansion. She goes to live there. There are like some spooky things, some witchy type of things that are happening. She sees a Stygian owl and a Scottish groundskeeper. So it's gonna be a good time. It's going to be a good time. Very excited about that one. It comes out October 1st. It's a perfect October read, I think. Okay, so now this one is another arc that I am very excited about. It is Secret Love by Willow Aster. This comes out October 10th. This is book 2 in, I believe, the Playbook Dad series. It's all about, like, single dads. The romance is in here. I've only read the first one. It is so sweet. I'm not quite done with it. I'm just finishing up the audio right now of the first book, Mad Love. I'm loving it so much. It is just such a sweet, beautiful romance, so I'm very excited about book number 2. Okay, another arc that I have comes out October 15th, and it is Sunlight by Devney Perry. I love Devney Perry. I think that she's a fantastic author. I got the ALC of this, so I'm going to be listening to this on audio, and I'm very excited. I did not love book 1, but I love Devney Perry, and so I have high expectations for this one. Don't know what it's about yet, but it's Devney Perry, so we're going to give it a shot. Okay, so now this one is a book that I am so excited about. I'm so excited about this one, very much anticipating it. It is The Beast Takes a Bride by Julianne Long, who is one of my favorite ever historical romance authors. I love her so much. I love this whole series. This is the Palace of Rogues series. This is the next book out. And I don't know exactly the circumstances of this, but I know this series, all of them have been 5 stars for me. She is peak historical romance author perfection. I love it so much. Can't wait for this. Comes out October 22nd. Okay, so there are 2 other books that come out on October 22nd, and one of them that I am absolutely getting to is The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynn. John Gwynn writes fantasy that is so fantastic. It's very character-driven, but he also does such a great job of making it a fully immersive experience. This series is so compelling. I can't wait to read this latest installment. I think it's going to be fantastic. Comes out October 22nd. Now this next one is from an author that I used to really love and I haven't read in a while. I saw this on NetGalley and I requested it because I really wanted to read it, and I'm hoping that it's great. So this is Run by Blake Crouch, who kind of writes a little bit of maybe like sci-fi thriller type of books. They're very interesting. I really have liked what I've read from him in the past. Recursion, I think I like a little bit more than Dark Matter, but I love both of those. I actually think they're very fun, compelling reads. So Run, don't know what it's about, but it's going to be a good time because Blake Crouch writes a really gripping thriller with some interesting sci-fi elements too. Okay, now a book that comes out October 29th is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. This is a book that I have heard such great things about. I'm so excited about this. I have not read The Sword of Kaigan. I haven't read this author at all before, and I feel like people but I feel like a lot of people universally love The Sword of Kaigan, and I have heard really great things about Blood Over Bright Haven. So I know this was initially indie released, and then it was picked up traditionally, and then it was kind of pulled, and so now this is going to be its traditional release. So very excited about this. Comes out October 29th. Okay, so now this next one is a debut author, and this is someone that I really think should be on a lot of people's radar. I'm very excited about this series. He is a friend, and this is A Journey Thrice Begun by Sean Bobby Kerr. This book comes out October 31st. It is a fantasy romance, and it sounds so fun, and I have already started this one, and I will tell you that the writing is very charming. I really like the characters and the setup, and I think this is going to be really excellent. So the premise of this is, in this fantasy world, we have our main hero who is going to finally be able to propose to someone that he loves, and it is on the day that is the only day where proposals can happen, and they have to be done publicly. And of course, something happens that throws things into the mix, and a blind family comes into town, and that is kind of the thing that sets off some dark powers that is going to sort of cause problems. So I'm very excited about that, and I think it's gonna be a great one. Okay, so now let's talk about some other books that aren't ARCs, because most of my TBR is about books that I have to read that are ARCs or book club reads. So these are just books that I just really want to get to. So one of them is Metal Slinger. I really want to read more fantasy romance this month. I feel like I didn't really read as much as I liked to in September. This is a book I've been seeing going around a good bit lately, and it sounds pretty interesting. It's basically our heroine. She sounds like she is a young guard. She's very excited to go to an annual market. It's sort of a rite of passage for them. She was not expecting to break a century-long peace treaty, and nor was she expecting to have an encounter with an enemy soldier. So I think this sounds great. I think it's a beautiful copy. Like, isn't this a beautiful cover? Very excited about that one. Another fantasy romance that I want to read is called Cloak of the Vampire. This one is on KU. This one sounds really interesting, almost kind of like an urban fantasy type of thing, because we have our heroine who is best friends with someone who kind of is always the one in the limelight. Our heroine herself is the one who's kind of living in the shadows. And she ends up going out with her friend one night. Her friend is actually killed by vampires, and our heroine is turned into a vampire. So she has this revenge plot against the vampire who turned her, who is the Lord Vampire, but he loves her. So it sounds really good, right? Okay, very excited about that one. And then I just recently picked this one up at Barnes & Noble. It was a complete cover, sprayed edge vibe. I've been hearing about this book for a while. I have tried this author in the past, and her book Feathers, I believe, didn't quite work for me, but I'm very excited about this one because it's basically the romance between a half-fae, half-human, and a full fae prince. So it sounds like there's a lot of doubt surrounding how can a fae prince and a halfling ever have lasting happiness. But there is a prophecy about our heroine that says she will be queen, but first she has to free the crows. So I think it sounds great. I'm very excited about that one. Okay, and then I want to read this historical romance. This is also a recent purchase. I just bought this the day it's a new release as well. Vivian Lorette is a new historical romance author to me. This one sounds really fun. Basically, our heroine has been a flirt for way too long to consider marrying. She has been betrothed to the long-lost Viscount Vandermeer since birth. No one has actually ever met the Viscount, and without an heir, the title will soon become extinct. So she's willing to do anything to keep her Viscount alive, even if she has to invent him herself. And then it says, Oscar Flint, first-rate gambler, estranged from his father's side of the family his entire life. He grew up beneath the tutelage of a legendary con artist. There isn't anyone who could pull the wool over his eyes until he crosses paths with our heroine, Honoria. Losing to her puts him in a bind until he remembers her story about a lost heir to a viscountcy, an heir that no one has ever met, not yet anyway. So that sounds very fun. I'm very excited about that, and I'm very excited to give her a try. Okay, and then I have two more books that I'm actually currently reading is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I have heard nothing but great things about this book and this series and this author. I am further than this bookmark shows. I'm listening to the audio. I'm about 40% into it. And I am really enjoying it. It is very gritty. It is very dark. I am not a huge fan of how this author is writing women. I will say that right now, but I'm going to see it through to the end. So, and then the last book that I want to read is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. So this is a book that I've kind of had on my radar for a long time, but I haven't had great luck with Jay Kristoff in the past. I tried to read Nevernight years ago and DNF'd it because of how he wrote the very young female character in there. I just was not for me, man. Not at all. But I've heard really excellent things about Empire of the Vampire, and this was recommended to me by a friend specifically, and because of the great character work, so I'm very excited about it. Yeah, there you have it. Those are all the books that I hope to read in October. Certainly won't get to all of them, but I've got a lot to pull from. Please let me know what you want to read in October. Thank you so much for watching, and please leave me a vampire emoji if you made it this far, and I'll see you all in my next video.